And we're back, and you know that the federal government loves nothing more than to regulate stuff that didn't used to be regulated, and so the Food and Drug Administration has grabbed regulatory authority over vaping and smoke-free products. And here to talk about it, Paul Blair from Americans for Tax Reform flew all the way from D.C. just to do this show. Thanks, man.
Absolutely.
All right, and I'm gonna mess this up, so let's go ahead. And Julie Woessner, the president, Consumer Advocates for Smoke-Free Alternatives Association.
Yes.
What does that mean? Go ahead and lay it on us. Give us your 1-minute elevator pitch on.
So
for 2 minutes with a name like that.
We go by CASA for obvious reasons, but CASA is a consumer group. We're a 501c4 nonprofit, and we advocate for low-risk alternatives to smoking. And the vast majority of our members are vapers, but we also advocate for smokeless tobacco as well. If it's a low-risk alternative to smoking, we support it.
Okay, before we get into the FDA thing, let's define some terms. So what is vaping and smoke-free? Explain, just to give us when someone says vaping, some people might think of steam coming out of a kettle, or they assume it's a way to smoke marijuana since we're in Colorado. What is it?
Well, basically, people all the time look at tobacco and they think tobacco is so bad for you. But the problem with tobacco isn't tobacco. It is lighting it on fire and then inhaling the products of combustion. So we represent, again, smoke-free alternatives such as smokeless tobacco, oral tobacco, but primarily vapor products. And vapor products are basically a solution, a liquid that may or may not contain nicotine, that is used in a device, and it gently heats it to the point that there's steam or vapor. It is not combusted, and so therefore the risks associated with it are somewhere between 95 to 99% less harmful than smoking.
So when you see someone vaping, that's not smoke that they're blowing out.
No,
That's actually
it really
literally
isn't.
vapor, steam.
Yeah. I mean, that is the whole basis for this. Anytime you've got a smoke-free, non-combustion form of nicotine use, it is inherently far less dangerous and actually pretty darn safe.
But
like
governments
99%.
want to treat this just exactly like tobacco. In fact, in my town of Edgewater, the signs are all along Main Street: no smoking, no vaping within 25 feet of this doorway. So they're putting this under the same umbrella, right? Is that wrong? Are they
No, they're trying
wrong to do this?
They're trying to do this.
Yeah, and you know, this has played out pretty significantly at the state level over the last 3 years. Started back, the first state to tax these like tobacco products was Minnesota, which until this year taxed the products at a 95% wholesale rate. There are 3 other states that do it as well, but more than 30 states across the country have tried to tax these products like other tobacco products or like cigarettes. And so certainly to the extent that there's been an effort to treat them the same, that's played out with public place bans or any of the other sorts of regulations or restrictions on the use of cigarettes in public or in private places for these products as well.
All right, so then if it's not smoking, right, and if this is just vaping, if this is just vapor, literally vapor, steam, what was the FDA took regulatory authority over this stuff a couple months ago? Is that right?
Yes.
What was their rationale? This is not tobacco.
Sure. So in 2009, Congress gave the FDA authority to regulate cigarettes, smokeless tobacco, and roll your own. This was under the Tobacco Control Act. The intent was to regulate and more or less prevent new tobacco products from being introduced to the market ever again. It was supported by the public health community. It was supported by the industries that sell tobacco products. It was a win for both of those industries. Unfortunately, then a product where nicotine, most of which is the commercialized version of nicotine, comes from tobacco products, is introduced to the market in the years that follow this and begins to take off. Now we've got 9 to 10 million consumers on a daily basis who use these products, and so. In 2014, they announced that they would be applying that 2009 tobacco regulatory bill to products that can or not always contain nicotine. And so as of last month, they announced that on August 8th of this year, all electronic cigarettes and vapor products will be deemed as tobacco products, which presents a couple of pretty significant problems for the businesses that sell these products and the consumers who currently use them as smoking cessation products.
I assume, and how do the consumer group, you don't like the idea of this because?
Oh, we think it's a terrible idea. You know, from a consumer standpoint, we believe in genuinely beneficial regulation, you know, good manufacturing practices and such. This is not it, though. The effect of this will be to basically remove the entire diverse marketplace and leave us with few, if any, choices. And we're big on consumer choice. One of the reasons why these work so well is because there are so many choices and options, so that you can find something that works for you.
And what it does is it requires that every product that has hit the market since February of 2007 to go through what's called a pre-market tobacco application. The problem is that there were no products on the market in February of 2007. So it's about 99.99% of all the e-cigarettes and vapor products that are currently on the market. And from a small business perspective, the FDA estimates that every single one of those applications may cost $300,000. Better estimates.
$300,000 to apply for
one
product.
application for one product, and that's probably a conservative estimate.
That's a low number.
It's probably about $1 million per product.
But let's back up for a second here. First off, who cares? This is just big tobacco. They can afford it.
Yeah, so they certainly can afford it. The problem, though, is that when you look at the diverse vapor space and the number of products available on the market, while there may be a couple of companies who may be able to get the products approved, possibly, because it's not only the cost, it's a requirement that you go through these population level studies and establish that they're safe for the general population. Not safe for former smokers, which the Royal College of Physicians and Public Health England, as Julie said, has already pointed out, have said they're between 95 and 99% less harmful. But you've got to, within the next 2 years, prove that they're safe for the general population. It may take a little bit longer to prove that. And so the FDA said that if in the next 2 years, whether you're a product being sold by tobacco companies or a product being sold by small vape shops up the street, you have to prove that they're safe for the overall population. And so at the end of 2018, if you haven't proven that to the FDA, then they have already threatened they'll begin to seize your products. And this is something that when the Tobacco Control Act passed in 2009 wasn't even required of those who produced cigarettes. And so it is a restriction on products that are up to 99% less harmful than them, and will result in prohibition via regulatory fiat.
Okay, wait. Well, let me see if I got this straight. So basically, the FDA is going to say that everything, all smokeless and vaping products, smoke-free and vaping products, currently on the market, that many millions of people are willingly purchasing and using, are going to have to go back and reapply to be authorized to be on the market.
Yes.
Yeah.
And in 2009, the look-back period for saying if you've hit the market since this period, it was 2 years. They've now said we're now in 2016, so the look-back period is again all the way back to 2007. And so not only is it a retroactive application of an onerous process, it's a retroactive application of an onerous process to healthier alternatives with a period that is so far longer than it was even for products that are substantially more harmful to the consumers that use them, cigarettes.
And if I don't have $300,000 to go back and fill out this
It's going to be so much more than that.
Let's call it $3 million.
Yeah.
What the hell? I mean, but if I don't have whatever the many hundreds of thousands of dollars
It's
is.
more than that. Look, if I were a business, which I'm not, and somebody told me for $1 million you can get your product through, I'd absolutely do it because I could amortize the cost of that over time. The problem is, though, that this isn't buying a permit. This is a crapshoot, and the FDA is the one who's calling the odds and picking the winners in this. And so you have no assurances that
So
you're
you might
going to
pony
get
up the
through
dough
it.
and go through the
nothing.
process.
You pay the
spend time and
toxicologist, you come up with the scientific studies,
And you can still
then
be denied.
And then they say, well, we only really want to apply these 3 products, and we want to allow these products to be sold in convenience stores, and this is all we want consumers to be able to access, despite the fact that there are 6, 7, 8 million consumers using alternative products. The FDA has absolutely the authority under their own claims to take all the other products that are currently being used off the market.
So how many businesses are we talking? I mean, how many businesses are we talking about here?
The estimates are pretty significant. I mean, there are as many as 15,000 vape shops across the United States. Jobs impacted between 50 and 70,000 directly impacted by this. And so, to the extent the vape shops won't have products to sell, those are folks who are going to be out of work. And these are new businesses who have come into place over the last several years. And so, it's a pretty significant economic impact.
So let's talk about there's an amendment coming up, right? Let's talk about this because this might happen, this might not happen.
Yeah.
Tell us about the amendment that Congress will be voting on.
Sure. So what is necessary is for Congress to stop the FDA's overreach,
Right.
and so on the immediate.
By the way, Congress didn't have to sign off on them grabbing regulatory authority. The FDA is grabbing this based on their own understanding of their authority,
yes,
right?
They interpreted the authority they were given years ago for a new and broader.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what's going to happen?
So there's a bipartisan amendment. Cole Bishop, a congressman from Oklahoma, Republican, congressman from Georgia, Democrat, that changes the predicate date. So that February of 2007 date to the date of deeming regulation, so August 8th of this year. So what it would do is it would allow all of the products currently being sold to consumers to continue to be sold. It also has some additional consumer protections, restrictions on advertising where youth readership exceeds 15%, requirement to disclose if a product contains nicotine, and if so, how much is in it. Basic consumer protections like that. But I don't know how things play out with regards to politics of the appropriations bills. But certainly this did get a vote on the House Appropriations Committee by a vote of 31 to 19. It passed.
Okay.
Who knows if there's going to be a vote on the full spending bill for agriculture appropriations. It may come down to what it came down at the end of the year, an omnibus vote. But that's the amendment that's currently being debated and discussed right now.
Well, I guess from a vaping owner's perspective, we can only hope that passes. But we are out of time. Thank you for joining us. Check us out at independenceinstitute.org and see you next week.